So, welcome to another episode of Sludge Underground. Guys, I've got Ro from Enter Shikari here who's going to be playing Ramfest. Ro, introduce yourself and what it is you do.
Yo, yes, thank you for having me, mate. I'm a singer, I'm a producer, musician, and author. Primarily, my work revolves around the band Enter Shikari, who are incredibly excited to finally be coming back to South Africa after all these years.
Yeah, it's been something like 11 years since you guys last played in South Africa.
Yeah, we did Oppie Copy Festival and it was such a delight. We had such a good time. For one reason or another, we've never managed to get back. Obviously it's kind of South Africa for us is a territory that's kind of by itself, like out, far away from us, and it's hard to kind of link in with other tours.
Yeah, it's a bit out of the way. Yeah.
We're super excited to finally be coming back.
Yeah, like the inside, the buzz, the excitement around you guys coming through has been absolutely, I could feel it. People have been talking about it, debating about it, and honestly, like I'm quite stoked to have you guys coming back. It's so sad that you mentioned that it was Opi Kopi that you guys played, since that is no longer a thing.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, that seems to be the trend at the moment. So many festivals, and here in the UK, we're losing venues at a ridiculous rate. I think it's one venue a week at the moment is dying. So it's quite depressing at the moment.
That's really scary to hear because, like, we as South Africans tend to look out at the world, well, as South African musicians tend to look out at the world with sort of envious eyes of the music scenes of other countries, especially like the UK or the States and stuff like that. So, hearing this from you that there's venues that are dying out is actually quite sad and disheartening.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know what is it's a classic route that almost every industry is going down, or a classic pollution that every industry is having to deal with. It's kind of just the standard role of capitalism, really. So all the money is going to the places that already have quite their fair share of money. So if we're talking about arenas or like big venues in the UK, they're doing fine, and we've actually got there's at the moment there's I think it's 20 new arenas that are in at some stage of either being planned or being built. Some of them are still working on permission, but that's where we are with that. At the same time, on the complete other end of the scale, all the kind of grassroots venues, the venues that are bringing up the new artists, that are giving people access and opportunities to be able to play music, interesting music, diverse music, nuanced music. All those places are struggling and not being supported by the government whatsoever, and not being encouraged. So what we're doing with our tour in the UK early next year is just doing like a simple £1 from each ticket goes towards grassroots venues. It's kind of cool to do that ourselves, but like the main reason we're doing it is to try and encourage arena-sized venues to basically employ this £1 going to smaller venues on every show that they do. Is trying to apply a bit of pressure and trying to get the ball rolling, because that would help kind of equalize the playing field, and it feels like a kind of more morally righteous thing that we should be aiming for.
Yeah, kind of like the shopping malls of the music scene, just consuming everything. And like you guys made a name for yourselves, like with this, like you're saying, the grassroots venues. That's you guys, even as you became a bigger band, were still really passionate about playing those smaller venues, those smaller, more intimate shows, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean that's how we came up, and I'm constantly kind of, I think, grateful really that we get to play such a variety of venues in terms of size and different places around the world, and we get to still experience those early sweaty intimate shows that we grew up playing.
It's cool though, because I was watching an interview with you guys. You were talking about a venue that you loaded into that kind of like moonlighted as a strip club during the day, and that was pretty hilarious because it's duality. Like most venues in South Africa serve alternative purposes during the day as well. Like I've played a venue that's
Right.
is a coffee shop during the day.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only way to survive, isn't it? I think in this current climate, anyway.
It's fantastic. And like, how was your experience in South Africa the last time you guys were here? Like, what was your thoughts on the supporting acts, the bands that played alongside you guys? I know that in one of the other interviews that you guys said that you don't really get time to actually watch anything unless or listen to anything new unless you're on a lineup with them.
Well, we had a absolutely amazing time like last time we came. My memory's pretty shot at the best of times, but I was watching the little YouTube kind of roundup video that we did of that trip, and it brought back a lot of memories. But yeah, we had a great time. We had like a little afternoon doing a kind of safari game drive sort of thing. That was amazing. You know, it's not every day on tour you get to stroke a baby lion. It's like ridiculous. And yeah, I remember in tell you what, Chris is our bassist. He's really looking forward to going to some wineries this time. He's a big wine guy. And obviously South Africa is quite renowned for his wonderful alcohol. So yeah, no, we've got good memories, and we're looking forward to making some further memories. And the show itself was great. Like the passion, we didn't really know what to expect when we first came to do that Oppie Copy Festival, and yeah, it blew us away. So we're really excited to see if we can up the game.
No, that's absolutely sick. And then just to let your bassist know that one of the towns that you're playing in, Stellenbosch, is like kind of like our wine capital. It's pretty much what Stellies is known for, is it's
Awesome.
wineries. So he should be excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. Wicked.
In terms of another thing where you guys were saying that you also get like very little time, well, there's very little time between shows that you guys play. Like prior to COVID, there was less than like no more than a 3 month gap between being on stage. Is that still the same for you guys? Are you still, once you're done here in South Africa for Ramfest, what's the next, like the next place you guys are on to?
I mean, we've actually just had 6 weeks off because we brought the album out at the start of this year, Kids for the Whole World, and it was just manic for about 6 months really. And so it's the first time during a summer, you know, during the height of festival season, that we actually took some time off, which is great. So we're very much renewed and energized and ready to go. But yeah, I mean, we'll certainly never experience anything like the pandemic forced us to experience again. We didn't play a show for over a year and a half. And I don't think, you know, at the moment I can't see a time where that happens ever again until one of us decides they don't want to do this anymore. You know, it's we live for live music. It's I discovered very intensely during the pandemic that live music, the experience, the cyclical energy, the human connection, that is a real intrinsic fuel for what Enter Shikari does. It can't survive without it. And, you know, consequently, I actually didn't write any music during that year and a half. I felt like I couldn't. I felt like I lost the ability to, purely because I wasn't receiving the fuel, you know, that live scenario. So it was a very interesting, daunting, disturbing time, but you know, wasn't it for all of us? But yeah, I don't think we'll ever spend more than 6 weeks off the road, really.
Yeah, it was a rough time for all. I think it would be largely in part to like your, like you said, how you guys came up with the playing of the smaller venues, with live music always being a priority, live performance, live shows always being a priority over, anything else, and connecting with your audience. So I'm actually really stoked to even be having this chat. Really, that's
Yeah, I mean, like live music for us is, if you think about it, like historically on a quite a broad scale, we've only been able to listen to music that isn't in a live scenario. So, you know, be that by vinyl, cassette, CD, and then digitally. That's only happened in the last sort of 100 years. You know, before that, we only heard our favorite song, say, about 5 times in our lifetime. That's if we could afford to go and see it. You know, so live music has always been with us. You know, go back to sort of like around the campfire as hunter gatherers. It's this communal thing. It reminds us of our shared vulnerability. It reminds us of our connection. You know, we play some music and it's like a dictatorship. You feel something, and it's very probable that what you feel is going to be incredibly similar to the person next to you, what they're feeling. So it's this kind of last bastion of unifying experience. Really, there's not really anything else that brings us together and makes us feel connected like music does anymore. So yeah, it's just a real pleasure, fills us with purpose, the fact that we get to still play live music. And that, you know, that's not to say that I don't put any love into what we do in the studio. Of course, that's equally interesting, and we get to explore all different types of sounds and ways of doing things. But yeah, I think the human connection thing is central to what we do, and it always will be.
Like, holy shit, that is a perspective I've never considered before. That has blown my mind, to be honest. Like, that is,
Yeah, it makes you feel super grateful, doesn't it? Like the fact that I can listen to a song on repeat is something that the majority of human beings on this planet who've ever lived have never been able to experience. So it's yeah, one does feel lucky.
that journey sort of backwards. It's become a lot easier for someone to sit in their room and sort of experience that feeling
Mm.
themselves and be able to track things down and layer things differently and sort of expand on a vision that wouldn't have been possible, that's only really been possible in the last couple of decades, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's almost like the democratization of music production. You know, with most people. Well, no, that's a complete lie. A lot of people can afford, a laptop, and if you can afford a laptop, then you can afford every single sound that one can dream of. You can create anything really, like whole orchestras can layer all sorts of things, like you said. So it's amazing that we can have these things almost in our pocket. We're almost getting at the stage where there's apps that can create music just as well as kind of DAW based computer programs can. So it really is an incredible era that we're living through, giving us all an ability to yeah, create music.
And like I'm super curious now, like about so with your views on sort of how music has sort of become like an intrinsic thing and with the time scales and sort of those type of things, how did the electronic element become such a big part of Enter Shikari with because if I'm not mistaken, you originally played guitar and then shifted over to the vocals and the electronic side of things. What was sort of the motivation behind shifting so heavily towards that side and making it such a core like aspect of the band?
Well, this happened very early on. So before Enter Shikari, we were a three-piece. So it was drummer Rob and bassist Chris. Yeah, me and Chris both played guitar. We swapped bass and guitar around quite a lot. We were more just kind of a standard hardcore punk band, or kind of then went through like a phase of being like just an alternative rock band, kind of sounding like Muse or something. We were this is when we were like 14, 15. And then when I hit 16, I think by that point, I'd been so lucky that I'd just been exposed to so many different styles of music. I have a very big, like traditionally sort of Catholic family, like loads of uncles and aunties, and then they all had slightly different musical tastes, and some of them were really into music and had massive vinyl collections. And so I can remember my uncle handing me Music for a Jilted Generation by The Prodigy when I was probably about 13 or 14. And it just blew my mind. It was like nothing for someone that was brought up on like the Beatles, Queen, Motown, Northern Soul, that kind of stuff. It was a whole new world. At the same time, early teens, I was kind of getting into different local scenes. So we had a hardcore punk scene, but we also had like house, drum and bass. We were living just outside London. We got to watch dubstep grow from its very, very early beginnings in South London. So yeah, basically I was spoiled. I had so many different influences. And then at the same time, I was learning trumpet and learning music theory. So I was playing in orchestras. So I had a lot of classical influences as well. So I think when we got to that age of 15, where we'd been in a band for a bit, we felt like we knew to some extent what we were doing. We then had the confidence to go, well, actually, we should expand our sound. This isn't just who we are. We're not just alternative rockers. We have influences from all over the musical spectrum. It's just something that I'm really proud that we embraced. It's we could have just settled to be playing music like many of the bands around us were, but in those days, I think you needed to do something a bit different to get noticed. It was a very sort of saturated scene, as it is now, I think. And yeah, we felt compelled to explore a broader musical spectrum.
You guys have known each other for pretty much most of your lives. I mean, like most, if I'm not mistaken, a
Mm.
couple of you have known each other since you were like 5 years old. My question is that I'm not sure if you can speak for the rest of the guys, but what do you think like 15-year-old Rose thoughts would be on the where the band is now?
I think he'd be blown away to the point of disbelief, really. I've always said that this is a hobby that got out of hand, because that's always what it's felt like. We were never that band that had massive ambitions. I can remember being arm in arm with Chris when we were about 14 at Reading Festival here in the UK, and watching some bands. We watched one of our favorite bands, 100 Reasons, whatever year that would have been, and they were like, I think first on the main stage, so sort of 11 o'clock or midday. And I remember we just looked at each other, it's like, oh man, if we could ever just get to this stage, where we get to play outside in the sun at a festival, that would be amazing. And look where we've got to. We get to play incredible festivals every year, year in, year out. So we've completely surpassed anything that we even dreamed of. And I think for us, we try to cling on to what ambitions we did have. I think over what I wanted from music, or what I yearned for. I know I'll say this a lot in every interview, but it was human connection. I grew up like a very socially anxious person. So like making friends was difficult. I moved around a lot as a kid. My family moved a lot, so I was in lots of different schools, and yeah, consequently found it very hard to communicate, really. So music was like a way of communicating, and if I could speak about music with people, or if I could like play music with people, then it was a surefire way to sort of make me feel more at ease and more connected with people. So that's our ambition, really, just to keep connecting with people on a deep level, keep making people feel something, make people feel unified. Yeah, luckily that's been our only ambition, because it's very easy to get caught up in the rat race, caught up. I know so many bands who are just like trying to get bigger and bigger and play bigger venues, and that's all they care about. And it's not only is that just a bit like icky for me, I think also it's a bit dangerous. Like for the mental health, that's not a good place to be in. It's relentless, and it can only set you up to eventually fail, I think.
It kind of comes back to sort of the capitalist and the greed aspect of it, really, where
Mm.
all you're doing is kind of if that is your goal, you are kind of just fueling the machine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's nothing sort of there's no depth in it. There's no real sense of purpose apart from your own self-interest. Yeah, and I just think it's a very dangerous, it's a tightrope. As soon as you fall from that, your sense of self-worth goes, your sense of purpose goes. And that's something that I concentrated a lot on during the kind of pandemic time, because I wasn't Rao from Enter Shikari anymore. I was just Rao. It was kind of forced me to get my sense of purpose and self-worth from other places, which I think was kind of long overdue.
No, definitely. And like I do want to stress though that there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money from music so that you can actually survive and continue to do it. There's just an extent that which, there's greed and then there's getting by.
Yeah, I don't. I think if it's your primary reason, then you'll get into trouble. Yeah, obviously, within a market economy, we all have to produce something or work for some entity in order to get money to live. But yeah, if that becomes your primary drive, then I feel it becomes insincere in terms of the art that you're making. Well, at that point, you probably don't consider it art anyway. So it's just a commodity.
Pretty much, yeah, it's something up for trade.
Yeah.
When you come through to South Africa now for the Ramfest shows, are you predominantly going to be playing the new album, or are you going to be mixing in just a bit of like the older stuff as well for the fans from those times, especially considering the reaction or the reception that you got from 11 years ago?
Yeah, we always try and play varied, mixed sets. I think in the studio we try not to be influenced by what we think the audience wants. But when it comes to the live arena, we're there to provide an outlet for people's energy, for people's frustrations, to create like a experience that people are going to enjoy. So yeah, we always try and like please as many people as we can, and that means trying to take at least some songs from every era, trying to make a varied set. And yeah, that's something we attempt to do every time.
And I'm also like I'm curious. I did ask this of the Ocean as well, and I fully understand considering how packed these schedules are. Have you had a chance to check out any of the local bands that are going to be playing with you at Ramfest?
No, we actually spoke about this the other day. We haven't yet, but we're definitely going to. I think there's definitely something to be said for like just discovering music live. You know, hearing something live for the first time. There's something almost magical about that. But knowing that we'll have a pretty intense schedule, I think I'm going to check out the acts beforehand and then just like try and maybe pick, two or three that I'll really like make sure I try and see live. So yeah, any suggestions would be
Oh man, Facing the Gallows is a must. Definitely my favorite local metalcore band. But this is such a loaded lineup. The Oh God, I would highly recommend.
cool.
Let's see, Man is Machine. They're giving you like a list of very different artists. Each one of these guys are really different from the other.
Okay, yeah,
And
that's
then
cool.
there's two of my favorites. Middle Grounds, who recently won the Battle for Wacken, and they got to go play at the Wacken show, the Wacken Open Air. Sunken State are arguably the hardest working boys in the country at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah, man, I'll check them all out. I'm excited.
Definitely Facing the Gallows and Oh God. And man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have this chat with me. I can't express how much I appreciate it. Any like a message to the South African guys who are expecting you guys and I am to see you?
Yeah, as I said, we're super excited to get back. I can't wait to sing along with you, see the whites of your eyes. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be a lung puncturing set. We're gonna drink like Dionysus, shag like Zeus. Yeah, man. Can't wait.
Oh, I'm absolutely stoked. Ross, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't express how much I appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me.
Big up, thank you. My pleasure. Hopefully get to see you on the day.